On Zoom and Thankful Thursday. Turning this mic over to you, Lorri Coburn.
Okay, good morning. I see well no one else is here except Dove and Sharon and Lynn and I. So that's kind of small. Usually they'll trickle in, but we'll see. Anyway, we're on the review of lessons 137 and 138. And I'm going to start with lesson 138 in the middle. Heaven is the decision I must make. In paragraph 9, it says, Heaven is chosen consciously. The choice cannot be made until alternatives are accurately seen and understood. All that is veiled in shadows must be raised to understanding, to be judged again, this time with heaven's help. And this paragraph jumped out at me when it says heaven is chosen consciously, because I've been meditating more than ever in my whole life and noticing all the resistance that comes up to being silent, to stopping the normal thought patterns of what you're going to do with your day and the problems that you think you have and all the people in your life and those things that run around our mind, the monkey mind, the ego mind. And when noticing them, just coming back to the present moment and how much resistance there is to that. And I guess I should have known there would be that kind of resistance because years ago, 40 years ago, or yeah, about 40, 50 years ago, when I started on the spiritual path, my feeling was, oh, I can't meditate. Meditation is just too hard for me. And it still feels too hard for me. But now the difference is this: heaven is chosen consciously. And I realize that we we're not able to I lost my train of thought because I saw Zulma's not going to be here today. Okay, that took me off. I'm disappointed because it's rainy here and I wasn't going to be able to play pickleball. So I thought, oh, okay, good. I'll get to hear Zulma today. But not. So that's two disappointments. But the ego's always disappointed about something, right? And so when we come back to the breath, when we come back to heaven is here, there is nowhere else. Heaven is now. There is no other time. It just keeps bringing us back, bringing us back, bringing us back. And the temptations of the world, even something as silly or simple or stupid as what are you going to do after you meditate? Or what are you going to do today? Or these plans of going shopping or meeting a certain person or needing to get a certain task done, they take priority. The mind, the ego mind wants those more than it wants heaven. And so I'm just my mind is being blown in terms of how much this world is such a pull. I mean, I've seen it for years and years. I've been doing the course every day for 25 years, or over 20 years, I should say. And before that, did it for a year back in 1986 by myself. I didn't know anything. I didn't even get anything except, yeah, I think we should forgive people. And if I'm attacking somebody, I'm really attacking myself. That's what I got out of the course back in 1986. And then when I picked it back up again in 2003, when Gary Renard wrote Disappearance of the Universe, I got it at the level that I needed to get it at, thankfully to his book. But now, over 20 years later, coming into the silence, coming into more of abiding as that higher self, the Christ self. And boy, oh boy, it's like, man, hitting this brand new level of ego resistance. It's like, wow, okay, all right. And just going with different types of meditation, it's been very interesting for me to try all different types of meditation. And last night I was listening to Aja Shanti, and he was doing a guided meditation, on what meditation's really about. And he said there are three commitments to meditation. The first commitment is be still. Notice the stillness that's already there. Well, that one I can do. And he's talking about don't itch this, don't itch that, don't move around. And we know that when we go into meditation, every part in your body that you never noticed before starts itching. um, that one doesn't bother me anymore. It's like, yeah, I got that one. The second commitment raised massive resistance in me. It was notice your natural state already allows everything to be exactly as it is. And we know there's that course lesson. I let all things be exactly as they are. And boy, oh boy, does that rise up in me like, no, no effing way. No, no. And this world sucks. I hate it. There's just no, I can't allow things to be exactly as they are. And when I've done the course lesson on that, the only way I can get into the stillness or back into center is I can allow it to be as it is because it's a dream. I can allow it to be as it appears to be because there's nothing out there. So, this part where Adyashanti says, notice your natural state already allows everything to be exactly as it is. Well, my natural state would be the part that's awake, that knows that nothing can be threatening. But boy, did the resistance come up on that one. Like, I can't even find a place in me that allows things to be exactly as they are. But then take a breath, realize, oh, yeah, okay, yes, yes, I can, thanks to A Course in Miracles. And I was having this discussion with a friend of mine the other day and saying he's a very dedicated Course in Miracles student. I said, the Course is the only path that has told me that God did not do this to us. God did not create the physical world and put us in here to suffer, because we were talking about how all the other paths seem to just accept suffering and the pain and the cycles of birth and death as just, well, that's just the way it is. That's just normal and it's just okay. And I'm like, I've never thought it was okay. So I'm so, again so grateful to the Course, because the Course brings me back to my natural state. And good morning, Deb. And so the third commitment on the meditation that Adyashanti talked about was notice the natural state of awareness, and that each time the mind wanders, return your attention to the breath or awareness. Now, that one I've also been able to do. I couldn't do it before meditating for the last year, but now it's like, oh yeah, okay, I get that one. Yeah, that one's okay. And then he said, make sure that you're not making a job for the mind to meditate. And that is what we tend to do. It's like, oh, I got to meditate and I've got to check off the box. Oh, I meditated today. Oh, and I've got to return to my awareness and I've got to be still and I've got to notice that everything is okay exactly the way it is. No, that's the ego co-opting meditation. Like the ego will co-opt everything. And so even with this paragraph 9, heaven is chosen consciously. Oh, well, I better choose heaven. I better choose heaven. And it says the choice cannot be made until alternatives are accurately seen and understood. All that is veiled in shadows must be raised to understanding, to be judged again, this time with heaven's help. And so, what is happening in this meditation for me is that things that were former temptations in the world. I mean, I've seen it for years. It's like, no, I don't really want that. I only want God. But right now, there's certain temptations or things, well, that would be so nice to have in the world. And every time I go with that, it's like, oops, wait a minute. That's not going to make you happy. Stop obsessing about that. And of course, we can't stop obsessing about it because that's the nature of the ego mind, to obsess and to want and to long for and think that that's going to be, really cool. And then, of course, when you get that, then it's like, well, on to the next thing that you want to keep you distracted. So I'm really noticing it now, especially like all the all of it. It's like it's so there. And when the Course says you are much too tolerant of mind wandering, if you stop and you're aware, it's like, wow, the mind is wandering all the time. So to notice it and bring it back, bring it back, bring it back. It's been really good because I'm at least not fooled by the ego thoughts. I can go, after a while, sometimes I am fooled by it. I get pulled right in. But after a while, it's like, oh yeah, that's right. I don't even want that. I don't want that. So I can't get upset that it's not happening. So in Dove, you just put on the board, heaven is not a place nor a condition. It is merely an awareness of perfect oneness and the knowledge that there is nothing else, nothing outside this oneness and nothing else within. And that's so beautiful. Yep, it's so beautiful. And when we keep meditating and keep coming back to that breath, and when we feel it, it's like, oh, yeah, this feels really good. And does anything else in the world feel like this? No, because we just keep coming back here. So, with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Sharon.
Hi, Lori and Dov and Lynn and Deb. Um, this the review lessons. It's so funny because for years I couldn't do these review lessons. They would annoy the ego mind because it would be like, I already know that. And that's the problem. If I'm defending anything, I'm already, when it says in my defenselessness, my safety lies. So when I defend something, I'm automatically, when I think I know something, that's the problem because I know nothing. Because I thought I was a character. I thought, and to bring myself back to mind that this is all happening in the spirit's mind, in the one sun, in the one light, one awakening, really. So it's kind of like, I love what you just shared, Lori, too, because, getting into the silence is a practice I've developed now, and also asking from within rather than without. Because when you do the without, that's the head. But when you do the within, you're in your heart. And the answers are totally different. It's like they're so simple, right? It's just the simplicity of it all. But I think the review, and Jesus is brilliant in this beautiful book because it's a brilliant teaching in the sense that there's a method here that the reviews help you the mind with the layers of just realizing and reiterating that we are not who we think we are. So if I have resistance to silence, that's not me anyway. Because how could I be the ego? I'm the one that's watching. The ego could never be God. So what I do is quickly do a ho'oponopono or just forgive it because I haven't gotten entangled with the thoughts like I had been, and it was kind of to a point where, enough is where I'm at now. And I feel like, if you listen to Ken or Keith, they're like, but that's not you because you're not there. It's just a talking mind talking to itself. That's all that's really here. We are in truth. The characters we're playing is false evidence appearing real. So it's just important, when Christ comes through and realizes that's all you've ever been, that this is happening in the mind of spirit or God, and it's just over. When it's already over, there's no point anymore to beat myself up if I'm in resistance, because resistance is the ego, and that ego mind, it always talks to itself, and it gets confusing. Lori, in regards to Adyashanti, I have that book, The End of Your World. I have it on Kindle. I love him because when you go through that book, he gives you a lot of things that have happened to me, that might have not come through Holy Spirit. It's because I am Holy Spirit. So when I listen to Adyashanti, I'm listening pretty much to Spirit, right? And the Course in Miracles leads us right to the true self. So they all go good together. But the symptoms I had with shifts I had, Adyashanti has gotten, as his that book goes on, he gives you a lot of things, and it does feel good because basically when you have, even though you don't need to know anything, because that's the whole point here. The whole point is not to know, but at least with this, he's trying to tell his students, basically, or teachers, whatever you want to call them, because we are all teachers. He's saying basically, everything that happens for you. And we all know that, right? Well, I don't know that. I always know that. But I'm getting to a point where it's happening organically, where it's just, I'm in the space of stillness. Stillness has all light, and the light is alive. The shifts that have taken place since 2021 have been huge. But as the shifts went through this mind, there was a lot of, the process of hearing the ego still and believing the ego still. And now it's like, no, I don't believe it anymore. It's a voice talking to itself. So if I don't believe it anymore, then where would I be? And of course the ego will pop up because it's still in this mind and say, well, it'll give you instructions on how you're failing. It's only the right mind that loves us. It's only the voice that loves us that we need to listen to from now on in, or at least from this moment to the next moment, right? I'm going to read something that from Kent's book, but it says the ego, the son's desire for his separate self, developed a plan to ensure that the Son of God would never change his wrong decisions, knowing full well that if he chose against his individuality, it would disappear. Thus, the ego carried out its brilliantly conceived strategy to have the Son become mindless. For how can he change a mind he does not know he has? And that's the truth. When we think we're this pretty much puppet, and we all do until we don't. And I mean, through the day, I still go back to the puppet. The puppeteer is really us because we are the dreamer, right? But at the same time, if we're dreaming this mind, we are also watching the show. So in regard to politics, when I watch now, there was a time when I was with Regina that she would say, observe and see where you're at. Because if you're getting triggered, that's your trigger. And that's how Dove teaches. But I couldn't do that then because I was very passionate about certain things. And now I'm not. And so why does that happen? Well, the willingness comes from spirit. It does not come from the ego. So that readiness is when spirit sees that you really have done everything, basically, what do you want? What do you want? Do you want this world? Because it's all concepts. That's all it is. There's a conceptual mind dreaming of itself and it's just insane. And it becomes more insane when you start to really hear what it's saying. Because anything it says to me is really, and I'm believing it, I'm doing it to myself because there's nothing outside of me. So it's important to just stay neutral and to be in the neutrality, because if we really are honest, we don't know anything. All we're looking from is echoes from the past. None of it means anything. But the only thing that means something is the holy instant. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to you, Doug.
Okay, thank you so much, Sharon and Lorri. I'm going to put that thing up again from Ken Wapnick on today's lesson. Of course, the last 10 lessons, review lessons, all start with my mind holds only, that's my key word, only what I think with God. Can you imagine our minds having anything other than what I think with God? Let's see here. How does God think? Does he see differences? Does he see things he doesn't like? Does he see things that need to be changed? Does he feel that he has to make changes? Those are all interesting questions. Let's go back to the thought. My mind holds only what I think with God. So if I'm getting to a healed mind, and as 137 says, when I'm healed, I'm not healed alone, literally means that we're all the same. We're all one. That's the same thing as the next lesson that we are looking at. What is the next lesson? Lesson 138. Heaven is a decision that I must make. Heaven is a decision I must make. So the truth is, it seems like a decision you must make, but the truth is we never left heaven. What kind of a decision is that? Well, let's take a look. What do you mean by heaven? I put up this, we all know that Suzanne, in fact, I just spoke to her. She's, of course, in Bali. I invited her. She just got a new laptop. So she says she's setting up her Zoom, her Zoom program. So hopefully she'll arrive here shortly. But this came from her today on today's lesson. And it's one of my favorite lines, which I repeat almost all the time. This is what it says. It says, heaven is not a place. It's not a condition. It's merely an awareness. Oh, that's a good word too. Awareness of perfect oneness. Oh, awareness means aware of all, no judgment, just let all things be exactly as they are, because that's all it is. It's an awareness of what is. Oh, that's a good word, is. God is. Then you cease to speak. I wonder what God thinks when he's into his isness. Well, you don't have to, just read Mandy's book. Isness is your only business. You have to wonder what God is thinking in his isness. Just be in your own isness. That's my only business. So I might take a look at a topic that I never thought I would bring up in this room, but I'm going to bring it up anyway, because I think it's maybe helpful for us to take a look at what does all this thing mean? Do I apply it in my everyday life and activities? Yeah, from the lesson from the last lesson, not 137, the one just before 136, which happens to be one of the most powerful lessons in the course. Sickness is a defense against the truth. And it ends up by saying, I have forgotten what I really am. That's true for sure. I mean, I'm talking about Dove. For I mistook my body for myself. You mean when you see somebody else's body, that's not who they are? That's right. But if you think it's who they are, then you must be thinking that you're a body too. Because bodies know about bodies. Yeah, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. If you do this, it's okay, but you shouldn't do that because it's not okay. That's all about bodies. And then it goes on to say, sickness is a defense against the truth, but I am not a body. Oh, let's see. How many times did he say I'm not a body in this course? Well, I count 23 times. John Mundy actually says he counts 53 times. I don't know where he finds it, but that's okay. I guess somewhere in the text he uses it. I'm just talking about in lesson headings. I am not a body appears 23 times, and then it goes on to say, and my mind cannot attack. That's underline that. You mean if I'm not a body, I really can't attack anybody, or others can't attack me. unless I think that they're a body. If I think they're a body, I'm sick. And if I don't think they're a body, I'm not sick. Which leads to today's lesson. When I'm healed, I'm not healed alone. So if I'm not a body and I'm healed, then what other bodies do cannot bother me. You know, if it bothers me, maybe it might embarrass me, it might, I want others to know what I'm doing because it would not be nice. Oh, that's a good word, nice. Would that be nice? It wouldn't be a good thing to represent the Holy Son of God. I've been in this room when I've been told, please don't do that because it bothers me. And it might not look good. Might not look good. What kind of expression? It might not look good is that? Sounds like an egoic expression. It might not look good. To whom? The funny thing is this thing that I just put up here, this thing that Suzanne and Bally made just overnight. Heaven is not a place nor a condition. It's merely an awareness of perfect oneness and nothing else. Let's see, the word oneness means we are one. How could anything bother what is one? Nothing outside this oneness and nothing else when there's nothing outside this oneness. Now, the funny thing is that that's in the same paragraph. Would you believe in 1,300 pages? Hey, Suzanne from Bali, I'm glad you made it. Okay, we're talking about your posting picture. Thank you so much. It's in the chat. Maybe I'll put it there again. So I'm sure you know what it looks like because you made it. All right. So I was just talking about it. So if we're all one, then there's nothing outside of us, right? The funniest thing is, this is in the same paragraph. What's the possibility that it's in the same paragraph as that sentence that amazed me like 50 years ago when I read it? It said, there's nothing outside of you. This is what you must ultimately learn. And I said, what? There's nothing outside of me. Of course there's something. There's people outside of me. There's trees and dogs and cats and mountains and oceans and come on, please don't tell me there's nothing outside of me. And you all know that famous story about 7, 8 years ago. I was in an airport with John Mundy and we were talking about that sentence. And he said, do you know what the word ultimately means? I said, what? He says, now. You mean there's nothing outside of me now? Well, that's the only way that you can be in heaven. And according to this whole course, the whole course is about we never left heaven. We just haven't accepted everybody having a good time. So never left heaven. This whole course is about my only responsibility is accepting the atonement for myself. But yet things in this world still bother me. How is that possible? How can you be both in heaven and still back where things bother you? That's impossible. If everything is one in heaven, how could there be things that that's like saying you're bothering God, or God is bothered. Oh, the ego thinks it's God. I forgot that. The ego thinks it's God, so it bothers the ego. Okay, I'm just going to rest here. Welcome, everybody. Love you.
Okay, thanks, Dov. And Welcome, Susie, and I think it's Wade. Wade, right?
Yes.
I had been wondering where you guys were. I maybe you were here last week and I wasn't here last week, but I hadn't seen you for a while. So, are you going to say something, Susie? Go ahead. You're muted.
Yeah, I was typing it, but it's not like Pal Talk.
I know.
Hi, everybody.
Anyway,
Yeah, we got what I found I was doing was I was creating my Bally schedule around Gather. And
Ah,
that doesn't really work when I'm trying to create a life in Bali. So so um oh, I just lost you. Oh, what did I do? I just
we
had
can
anyway.
see you. I can see
Oh,
you.
well, that's good. I just dropped my mouse. Where I have no idea where you are. I'll figure as long as you can see us, I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But we because really I have a screen that says welcome to Zoom. So we yeah, so we just I actually took everything off the schedule because I really was focusing on like making my whole schedule around Gather and also like Keith Kavanaugh at midnight, like at all these things. And it's like, no, we live here now, so we have to get into this time zone. And
Sure.
so this one works out perfectly because we just finished dinner. Like it works out beautifully. Um,
What time
so
is it there?
it's now 9 p.m. So I'm
Okay.
12 hours ahead of Dove.
12 hours, exactly.
Yeah, 12 hours. I'm 12 hours ahead of Dove. No, yeah, 12 hours ahead of Dove.
Right.
So and then with daylight saving time, I can't remember. You guys moved ahead. I mean, you guys
Right.
moved to 13.
Yeah, we're at Eastern time is 9 o'clock. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
okay. Well, welcome back. And yeah, and it's great that you're establishing your life there. Yeah.
There we are. Yeah, I fixed it. Yeah, it was. And I'm glad that I joined because it was nice to have that connection. But it just got to be a bit crazy, right? Because it's like I'm setting my alarm at 5:30 in the morning so I can hear something at 5:30 in the morning, and it's like all that kind of stuff. And so now it's like I'm glad that Dove contacted me. And I would have been here sooner, except I just got a brand new laptop because my laptop's broken, and I have Apple Care, but Apple Care doesn't work in Bali, so we have to send it to Singapore or India. Well, we're going home in 3 months or 2 months when our house is sold, so I'll just get it fixed then. But I can't live off of a phone. So I bought a smaller computer, and with Apples, because I'm new with Macs, but Macs, you get to just turn them on and you're done, except for little things like, oh, I have to install Zoom. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's my password? I don't know. That kind of thing. So,
Okay.
but we're happy to be here, and now I'll shut up.
Well, welcome back and good morning, Glorian, too. I haven't seen you in a while. And um, okay, so back to lesson 138. Heaven is the decision I must make in Ken's journey through the workbook after paragraph 9. So I'll read that paragraph again. Heaven is chosen consciously. The choice cannot be made until alternatives are accurately seen and understood. All that is veiled in shadows must be raised to understanding, to be judged again, this time with heaven's help. And Ken says, you could not ask for a clearer statement of what this course is about, which helps you see why Jesus painstakingly describes the insane murderousness of the ego thought system. He must do this because we do not know it is there. And that's what Dove was just saying. How, or Sharon, one of the two, were saying, how can we change our mind if we don't know it's there and we're not aware of what we're even thinking? And that's what's so astounding, that even after 20 years of doing this course, there's something new that, oh my gosh, that's been there all along and I've never even noticed it. Oh man. And then good morning, Cher. Cher just came on. So yeah, it's just astounding to me how layer after layer after layer just keeps being revealed. Well, it's never boring, that's for sure. We may believe there are expressions of viciousness in the world, but as long as we see through bliss ninny veils, we will think everything is wonderful or potentially so. And I don't like Ken's word bliss ninny. I just don't like that. That sounds judgmental to me. And then, of course, I'm judging Ken for saying it. So,
That's
well,
good, by the way, Lori. That's good. That's judging Ken. I like that. Thank you.
judging the judgment. We do not realize that as long as we believe there is a world out there, there is nothing wonderful. For the only truly wonderful thing is learning the world is not wonderful because it is illusory. And that's what you were talking about, Dove. There is nothing outside of me. There's nothing outside of me. And that's coming so clear to me these days. I mean, sure, have read that for 20 years, but it's like certain things went totally, oh, beyond my radar. And now I'm going, oh, wow, I made that up too. Again, not the small ego mind making it up, but the sense of I think that I'm a person in the world who's experiencing these things. I'm making up the whole idea that I'm a person in the world in a world experiencing certain things. And it doesn't get by me anymore. Just like what you were saying, Sharon, you just see things more clearly now. So again, we cannot recognize the world's illusory nature until we realize we have a mind that chose to make it so. The realization of which comes when we choose a teacher that shows us that the world's ugliness is a shadow of the mind's ugliness. Moreover, this inner world is illusory, a defense whose purpose is to prevent our decision maker from choosing against the ego. And boy, am I seeing that in the meditation, that in the meditation, constantly going back to this thing in the world that I think that I want. And then getting distracted by that again and again and again and again, and going through all these machinations in my mind of why that's not happening and how it could happen and what do I need to do to make it happen. And oh, it's going to be so good when that happens. And then realizing, wait a minute, wait a minute. There's nothing out there that is going to make me happy. Get back to the mind that's projecting an image out there that you think that you want. We need to see how this purpose operates in the specific contexts of our lives, making everyone's lessons the same in content, even as their forms differ from each other, which is why Jesus says our curriculum is highly individualized. Yes, so this is coming in a way that I can totally understand it because it's something that I've always held as important. This is important, and if I get this, then my life will be better. And we all have those certain things. If I do this, if I get this, if this person changes in the way I want them to, life will be better. And it may feel better for a little bit, but then there's going to be something else because the whole point is there's nothing outside of us. We're projecting that as a form of lack. And when we are whole within ourselves, we are fine. We can do that second commitment that Adyashanti was talking about, of letting all things be exactly as they are. So, Susie, go ahead.
There.
I think,
Okay, I got it. Okay.
go ahead.
I just what I wanted to mention was when you talked about if I have this, then this will happen. I don't know how many of you who have listened to Keith Kavanaugh's recent podcast, Rules for Decision. Yes, it's 3.5 hours long, but it's the closest thing to a 2025 Ken Wapnick workshop. We keep, and he's talking a lot about because he said that he put off doing rules for decision because it's the biggest thing that course students get wrong. It's like, because you're saying you'll be asking Jesus, please, should I take this job or that job? So you're already asking spirit, like you're setting the rules. But just what you said about if this happens, then this, if this happens for this, well, yes, your ego will be happy for a bit and then won't be happy after that. So it's just, I really, really recommend. It's awesome. It really is 3.5 hours of Ken Wapnick 2.0. Lorri, what you're talking about right now is exactly what Keith talks about in the podcast. Well worth it.
Thanks, Susie. Go ahead, Dove.
Yeah, thank you for that, Susie. And as Lynn pointed out, Lynn played it twice at ACIM Gather yesterday, and as she said, it was so good. I listened for a couple hours. When he was on John Monday, I actually said to him, I think that you actually, and I know it sounds like it's heresy, but I think you surpassed Ken Wapnick, and there are moments where his lucidity is so clear that I think that he has passed. But first, Ken, he says, just as I say, Ken is my teacher, but the mind is so clear that it can point to things that all of a sudden, my God. And I just want to back to you, Lorri. You were saying that you know you wish somebody would stop it, and if they stopped it, your life is better. But then it goes back, and they may do. Actually, what's really going on is the ego is in control of me. That's why I want them to stop it. If they stop it, I'll be at peace. No, the ego is still in control. I mean, having them stop it is what Keith calls flypaper. Yeah, you do this and I'll be okay. That's flypaper. Okay, back to you, Lorri.
No, Lynn has her hand up.
Oh, okay, Len, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And Sharon,
Okay.
you take over after Lynn, Sharon.
So yes, and I did listen to that a couple times yesterday, and I actually played it again during the night. So anybody anytime was probably going to hear Keith Kavanaugh. But what strikes me so much about this, and we're talking about the differences between how Ken taught and how Keith teaches. Um, Ken kind of had to um, pussyfoot around a lot with people. People who came at the beginning early in the course and even up until now were not ready, willing, or able to hear the message that the course was really teaching. And Ken, like, he pushed the limits as much as he could, but there were still people who came over and over and over again to Ken, and they just did not get there is no world. There is no world. It just wasn't possible for them to understand. It wasn't impossible for them to fathom because they were so caught up in their own belief system. And because, Ken came along when it was everything so new, and even Helen was very tentative about who was going to be able to hear this course, and that a lot of people were not going to be able to understand it, and that it had to be done in a certain way, or else people were just not going to get it. So there was all this real light touch going on, and heaven would heaven why do I say heaven? uh, Ken would hit the hard parts, hit the real parts, but it was really clear that it was just not sinking in. People were just not getting it. Now, how many years later, we've people who have studied the course, we've had all these groups, we've had people rewrite the course, several different, groups come together and say, oh, I think it would have been better if it was done this way, and put it and did this and did all the analytical everything on the course. And that was all, obviously for a reason. Um, and then came along this generation, and I'm saying generation even though I'm a lot older than most of you, and probably don't fit into the same quote generation, but it is a generation of students. It's like we're the second wave of the students of A Course in Miracles. And this, Keith, who is one of the captains on the ship on the second wave, he now has come along and recognize that we are the people. You cannot pussyfoot around with us. We want to hear it straight and direct, and this is exactly what is happening here. And so Keith does not pull any punches. And, Keith laughs a lot. Keith is looking and going, I don't know how, people are not getting it, but you got to get it. And that was the whole thing of this last he didn't want to approach rules for decision because we didn't want to have those rules. We didn't want to hear those rules. We also obviously uh, associated from the thoughts that those rules were made to show us that we made them into a whole nother rule about how to be in the world. And so Keith is like making this correction of the course and just saying, that's not it. And, if you really want to get this, you have to come to understand the truth. And then he lays it out pretty clearly and pretty bluntly. And I think that is what attracted me to Keith for sure. Attracts a lot of people to Keith. Um, because he is willing to say it like it is. And so he's just the right person at the right time for where we are as a body of A Course in Miracles right now. And so I'm really, really grateful. Yeah, exactly, exactly. Oh, Susie, that's perfect. Do you want to say that? I'm going to let you have the mic so you can say these words because I love this.
Yeah,
Please,
that's pretty
Susie.
much, and I can thank my mom because that was the same in my family business. Ken was Captain Kirk from he was from Star Trek, Space, the Final Frontier. These, and he did, and he set the way. He set it. He set the path for travel in space, but also for that whole TV series. He set the way, and then Jean-Luc Picard, then the Star Trek, The Next Generation. And even to show you an example, Space, the Final Frontier, where no man has gone before. That was the first one. The second one is with Jean-Luc Picard, where no one has gone before. Because you wouldn't say, because back then it was man and men and women were not the same. So I see this beautiful similarity, because Jean-Luc Picard he just calls it like it is. He just calls it like it is. It's pretty amazing. So that's exactly how I see it. It's Star Trek, because it's not about being better or worse. It's not about that. It's the next generation. That's just it.
I love
It's
it.
just, that's all it is. But yeah,
Thank
it's the easiest way. But oh my God, he's got the patience, and it's really cool. I was asked to leave the group that I was sharing Ken quotes in, because now other people are sharing them. So I was asked to leave, you know. I was asked to leave. And then Takini was saying to me, but look at all the people you could try to reach. And I'm like, but hold on, there's only one. So, you know, I've got three people that are old school from that group. They've been introduced. I didn't personally introduce them, but they were interested from what I posted to Keith, and now they're sharing Keith stuff. But I've met people who were there from the get-go, from before Ken was teaching, and they're holding on to anger. And I can't touch that, and I wouldn't touch that, and I wouldn't know how to touch that, because that anger just even contradicts everything anyway. So, I mean, I'm grateful. Like, I'm grateful. I'm grateful. But I love Jean-Luc Picard. Yeah, he just
you.
really, really I love Keith. I just love Keith. Yeah.
073
That's not me. Okay, that's
No,
me.
okay, yeah, no. All right, thank you, Susie. We'll turn it back to Sharon, maybe, or Dove, whomever.
Yeah, I love this conversation.
Yeah,
I agree with Lynn, and the thing about the script is everything is happening in God's time, right? As they always say. So the script is written, and remember, Keith's not even there. He's just another echo voice of spirit. And when he teaches, he gives no wiggle room, not even a little. Like it's like if somebody loses a child, he'll say, I'm really sorry, but she wasn't there, or something. He'll say something, but he'll always say it nicely. And so I listen to, but I also have found other teachers too that have learned from Ken. And the thing about spirit is, it's what Lynn said, we're progressing where we are. Like, I could not have heard Keith years ago. It would have been absolutely startling, even though I stayed and gathered all the time. I mean, I might have been in there like 7 to 11 or 12 every day. So, because I wasn't working and I was sick. So, or the body was sick. But I I feel that when somebody doesn't give you wiggle room and you're ready for that, it's very helpful, because there is no us. And that's his main point, and that nothing really happened. So, and that's kind of like God knows when you get into the course, and if you think nothing ever happened, that's where Ken calls everybody bliss ninnies, because you have to give it a process. Jesus talks about trust. It takes a very long time to become completely certain. Certainty develops organically because we're not people, we're mind. And that's the most important part of this. That's where I slip up when I feel like I'm still the character, where being in the body and moving around, when in fact, we're puppets. But I don't think we could compare Ken and Keith at all, because they have a different style. But I will say that Ken has been, what came through Ken has taught so many teachers of God, and a lot of people, like I was talking to Karen the other day, and a lot of people, including me, are going more within with Ken's work, because Ken, again, I feel like Dove, where he was definitely picked by the higher self to do this, to do the work. There was a lot of them. I mean, look at Judy Scotch was picked. I mean, Carol Howell. And by the way, Carol Howell's an exceptional course teacher. We all know that. She's like, you listen to her. I mean, she doesn't give wiggle room either anymore. Like, she never really did, because when I spoke to Carol, like maybe 20 years ago, I had a problem, and she was saying, you really don't have that problem. But again, it was where she was at and I was at. And was it helpful? It's always helpful to hear the truth. But if your ego's beating the crap out of you, it becomes a little harder. But the desire that we want the truth is already done. So we are just reviewing this whole movie. There's nothing here that hasn't already happened. And that's another part why we're safe. It's truly a movie. That's, as far as like, why are we watching it? Any question of why or understanding is definitely the ego, because there's nothing to understand in spirit. It's an isness. It's here right now. So I've been guided to talk about this now. How can you who are so holy suffer? All your past, except its beauty, is gone, and nothing is left but a blessing. That's like something to breathe in. I have saved all your kindnesses and every loving thought you ever had. I have purified them of the errors that hid their light and kept them for you in their own perfect radiance. They are beyond destruction and beyond guilt. They come from the Holy Spirit within you. And we know what God creates is eternal. You can indeed depart in peace, because I have loved you as I loved myself. You go with my blessings and for my blessing. Hold it and share it, that it may always be ours. I place the peace of God in your heart and in your hand to hold and share. The heart is pure to hold, and the hands are strong to give it. We cannot lose. My judgment is as strong as the wisdom of God, in whose heart and hands we have our being. His quiet children are his blessed sons. The thoughts of God are with you. The only thing that is for me is to stop judging. And of course, that's organic also. It's happening organically because it's happening by itself. So if we judge, we just forgive it. But the forgiveness is about the fact that we look and we don't have anything to say because it's all good. This is a movie that I've watched, that I lived, and then I'm watching. And I don't even know if I've lived it, because here's the thing. When that thought, well, I couldn't have lived it, because as soon as the thought was, it was over, as soon as God saw what we were believing as the children of God. So everything just went like that. It was like a wipeout. And the beauty of A Course in Miracles, and I really feel like if you're older in your 70s or 80s, this is a profound book, because I would believe that the character in me still, I wouldn't even believe it. I think I would know to die might be really scared for the ego. I can't do anything about that. What I have to do is watch the ego, watch the mind, and realize if I'm afraid, I'm believing the mind, right? Because we're never really the mind. We are the I am presence. And, a lot of the shadows have come up in the last year are now like, it's just so different than it. And the paradigm shifted in a way that I kind of don't feel as though I want to do anything but just be. Yesterday I taught, but in the morning I get up early sometimes. Yesterday it was 4:30 because I go to work. I work a couple of days a week. And so before I went to work, I did I also did meditation like you, Lorri. But it's not unusual for the silence to be a problem for the ego. Until that ego leaves, the ego will probably shriek. But being in the silence doesn't mean your mind has to be quiet. What it means is to stay in the space of the holy instant. That's all that matters, because that's all there is. So anyway, thank you. And it's good to see you both, Susie and Wade. I just love you both. I find your live in the dream is so exciting. I mean, it really is. Like, who gets the opportunity, even though it's a dream and it doesn't mean anything, to get an opportunity to see the world is pretty much a gift, But sometimes, when I sit with spirit, I realize that if I did travel a lot, I would be seeing my own mind there too, right? Because they're all just images in my mind. But I still feel in the dream, if you get the opportunity, like Susie, you're pretty damn it's a real gift. So, but I love when you're here. And Glory and oh my God, I love her. And Deb and Lindy, yeah. And of course, Cher and Lorri and I love you all. Just be, because we're a being. The talking mind is talking to itself. And what it has to say and what it thinks it knows is garbage. It's complete garbage. And I said to you a couple of weeks ago, I said, I'm just tired of playing in dirt. And I'm tired of being in the sandbox. It doesn't help. In fact, in the last couple of weeks, I've watched my relationships change dramatically, where I have nothing but just, I don't know, in my mind. But it has to continue to be a practice. This is all new, because I tend to be a very emotional character. So at this point, my husband and I were talking last night, because he was talking about, being emotional. He said, because he was married a couple of times, and he said, no, you were the most emotional, because I had that way. I cry, the sensitivity, like, of just crying. But all that is a gift if I can cry and if I can laugh, because that is also a way to transcend this crazy mind, the insanity of it all. And breath work, I will say, is another gift that I've done. So anyway, I'm going to say to Dove right now, you finish us off. And hi, everybody. Hi.
That was absolutely great, Sharon. And I don't know if you know, I put a whole bunch of your sayings in the chat, like we are the I am presence. Wow.
That's all that's here.
I mean, that's great, Sharon. I mean, if that's all we are is the I am, you got to laugh. In fact, laughter is really the solution to all this craziness. If you really listen to Ken, the way out of this mess is don't take anything here seriously. It's one thing to say there is no world, and you're right, Lynn. People cannot handle there is no world. I mean, and I was there in the early days when Ken used to teach in Manhattan on the Upper West Side in people's apartments. That's before he ever had his own place, up first in Pomona, and then up in Roscoe. People used to come to people's apartments to listen to Ken. And I assure you, the first time I went, there was about 40 people in the room. It was a large, the Upper West Side, it has large apartments with very high ceilings and things like that. So Ken is talking, and after about 20, 30 minutes, I looked behind me, because I was sitting in the front row, looked behind me, half the 40 people were sleeping. That's how they handle Ken. They can't handle it. They were like this. I'm not kidding. Yeah, just like the gong. They can't handle it, man. And it takes time for people to finally say, wait, is there another way of seeing this? Is there another way of seeing this? Of course, there's another way of seeing this, but once you begin to hear what what Jesus is saying to you, you got to start taking it lightly. And if for me, Ken's biggest teaching is don't take anything in here in this world seriously. Do not take anything here seriously. And as soon as you take it seriously, the ego is controlling you. Of course, the ego takes everything seriously because the ego says everything here is real. And I don't want people to offend me. I don't want people to bother me. I don't want people to attack me. I'm going to take it very seriously, which is nothing more than, excuse the expression, a defense against the truth. And the last lesson that we just did before today's lesson is 136. Sickness is a defense against the truth. He's not talking about the sickness of the body. There is no body. He's talking about the sickness of the mind. A sick mind, the ego has a sick mind. It sees things that it doesn't like, and it suffers. And thank you so much. I put a whole bunch of sayings, and one of them comes from Lynn, and she says, how can you who are so holy suffer? And of course, that's Jesus talking to us in A Course in Miracles. How can you, the Holy Son of God, suffer? Why are you doing this to yourself? But you'll keep doing it to yourself if you think you're a body, because if you're a body, the ego is your God. If ego is your God, you're going to be attacked, and you want to attack, and you're not going to be happy. Ego has never been happy. God's will for you is perfect happiness. How can you suffer? How can you suffer? You know, and Sharon says, you know, lately I just don't know. And thank you so much, Sharon, because I don't know. Oh, I want to say, Lindy, I know Lindy told me yesterday, we're talking on the phone. She likes to come here for Zuma. Zuma will not be here today. So we're kind of doing an extended part one of Thankful Thursday. I do not know what anything is for is lesson 25. And after doing the course for 27 years, I decided that that's my mantra lesson. Why? Because before that, I thought I knew what everything was for. I mean, after all, I had been doing the course for years, and, you know, and I really understood the course from the point of view of what the course was saying, but I wasn't practicing the course. I just knew the course conceptually. And until I get rid of, I know the course, which is the easiest way to say, I know. And I know is another word for the ego. I know. Ego means I know. I came to lesson 25. It says, I do not know. I do not know what anything is for. And then he starts off in paragraph 1. You don't have to go past paragraph 1 in lesson 25 to understand what this course is about. He starts off with a 3-word sentence. And you know how I feel about 3-word sentences. He says, I want you to wake up now. Purpose is, this is meaning. And what do you mean purpose is meaning? If you listen to Ken Wapnick, the only thing that has any meaning in this entire world is purpose. Why is that? Because purpose is not a property of the body. Purpose is a property of the mind. And you are mind, not a body. So as long as you think, well, this is good and this is bad, this is right, you're listening to the ego's bodily insanity. You know, it's like you go into a monkey house, you know, in the zoo, and the monkeys, you know, could be doing anything, and people love to watch the monkeys because some monkeys are going like this, other monkeys are going like this, other monkeys are sticking their tongue out, and people love to watch themselves, you know, in the monkey house. I mean, hey, they're monkeys, you know. We're human beings, but I'll go to the monkey house. Kind of reminds me what Lynn said Lynn posted here, and I love what she says. She says it's like a 20-year-old who still stays up on Christmas Eve waiting for Santa. Santa never was, and no one ever told him there was no Santa. But if you believe in what the ego believes in, you're sitting in the sandbox. And I think I heard Sharon says, I'm sick and tired of sitting in the sandbox. And one of Ken Wapnick's greatest metaphor that at least, and it's part of my, I now have about 70 quotes from Ken. That's one of my favorites. He says, your problem isn't that you're sitting in a sandbox and somebody's kicking sand in your face, and you have to determine whether I should kick sand back in this person's face or run the other way, which Freud calls fight or flight. You know, I'm going to fight this person back and beat the hell out of him, or I'm just going to get the hell out of here because I don't want sand in my face. He says, that's not your problem. Your problem is that you think that there's a sandbox and there is no sandbox. Now, that's the best metaphor to say there is no world. Now, I know it sounds like a platitude. I know Sharon's going to love it when I say it. It sounds like how is that going to help me? I'm trying to take care of my body. How does that help me that there is no world? Well, if you take it seriously, you're going to need a lot of doctors and nurses and hospitals and things like that, because you think that, you think that you're a body and you better take it seriously, because that's the only way that you're going to get well. But wait a minute, maybe there is no sandbox and there is no world. Why am I taking it so seriously? So that's Ken Wapnick's greatest teaching. Stop taking this world seriously. It's a movie, baby. No, the course calls it a dream. It's a dream, baby. No, I like the word movie. If you think that you're the character in the movie, you have a lot to sweat. You have a lot to worry about. No, seriously. I mean, people can hurt you. I mean, you can suffer. You can have all kinds of, that you have pain is okay. But then he says, wait a minute, if you have pain, there is no God. And if there's God, there is no pain. So what we said, well, yeah, but I still have pain. Yeah, it's because you think you're a body. Now, somewhere you have to get to, I do not know what anything is for. When you get there, you can take a look at lesson 25. Let's go one more time into paragraph 1, where he says, only purpose has meaning. Nothing else in this world has meaning. What do you mean only purpose? What does purpose mean? Well, there's 2 purposes. He says it'd be far unfair to you if there was more than 2. If there was 3 or 4 or 5, you could never get out of it. But there's only 2. There's only 2. Well, Dov, what are the 2? I mean, so I can decide which is the one for me. Well, the first one is to survive. Well, I'm a body, and I gotta survive, and I gotta live as long as I can, and I gotta get as much money as I can to take care of myself. I gotta. That's taking life very seriously. I gotta do this. I gotta do that. If I don't do this, then this is gonna happen. So that's called survival or striving, and Darwin said, listen, I can tell you everything there is to know about human beings. It's called survival of the fittest. The one with the most wins. The one who has the most money at the end of the Monopoly game wins. Everyone else loses. He has the most hotels, the most this. He's on boardwalk and he's having a good time. Everybody else is still back on Venture Place or Mediterranean or something like that, paying $30 rents. You gotta laugh, really. So what's the other purpose, Dov? I mean, you only told me about the one where you survive. What's the other one? Oh, the other one is called waking up. It's called awake therapy. I mean, do you want to wake up or do you want to stay in a dream? Do you want to keep sleepwalking? Do you want to keep thinking that that you know it all, and you're going to keep people away that you don't like, and you want people not to do this and not to do that because it bothers you? Really? You want to stay in that monkey house? Really? Where monkeys do all kinds of crazy things and you laugh at them? Sometimes you don't laugh, and sometimes it makes you sick, doesn't it? Doesn't what people do doesn't make you sick? God, I think they call that trauma, by the way. When people do things that you don't like and it makes you sick, the doctors have come up with a word called trauma. What other people do to you can hurt you. Really? The whole course is nothing outside of you can hurt you. Nothing outside of me can hurt me. That's the whole course of miracles. How could you lose the peace of God? How could you, as a son of God, suffer? You live in heaven. What is heaven again? What is heaven again? Heaven is as a beautiful picture that was shown to us by Suzanne and Bali. Heaven is not a place. It's not a condition. It's merely an awareness of perfect oneness. And the knowledge that there's nothing else. Well, if there's nothing else, why is it that other people can bother me? Why is it that I don't like what other people do? Why is that if there's nothing else? Maybe I'm still in the monkey house. Maybe I'm not in my right mind. And then it goes on to say, nothing outside of this oneness, and there's nothing else within. There's nothing else there. I'm always talking about myself. I could swear the dove says, no matter what I say about anybody, I don't like this, I'm talking about myself. Well, I don't do those things. No, but the ego sees you as evil, bad, unloving, guilty. Oh, there's a good word, guilty. And you know what guilt means? Guilt demands punishment, and you can have pain and suffering. You mean I do this to myself? I could swear that he says the secret of salvation is I'm doing this to myself. Len, I see your hand up. Go ahead.
Okay, well, here I'm going to put my camera on. So we're talking about what I see in the world is what I want to see in the world. And what I experience in my life is what I want to experience. Things are here for a purpose. And there's a scene in Stranger in a Strange Land where the main character, Michael Valentine Smith, goes to a monkey house. I'm not going to talk about that scene, but let's just say he learned from watching the monkeys why people laugh, and it's really really brilliant, and why people in this world laugh, not people in heaven. People in heaven laugh because it's joyful, but people in this world laugh because it's tragic, and we come to see that when we read that passage. But I'm not going to talk about that right now. I'm going to talk about something personal to me, and so, I kind of, when I'm, sitting around, have nothing to do, I'll be looking at TikTok. That's one of my favorite things. Watching TikTok, I get to know everything that's going on in the world. I actually follow a lady who teaches little girls dance in ballet. They're doing Balinese dancing. Oh my Lord, I love it so much. Watching these children with this amazing dancing, with this eye movements and facial movements and everything. It's so beautiful. I love watching that. But as I'm going through and looking at TikToks, these things show up and they're like little dramas, little melodramas, like a little soap opera kind of thing. And it's mostly Chinese people. There's some that are American and they've got, dubbing in different languages. But it's mostly Chinese people, and some are ancient in the past and some are in the present day. But there are all these little stories, and then the little stories, there's a young girl, she's virtuous. She has a evil counterpart, maybe a twin or a family member, somebody else, and they're plotting against her and they steal her boyfriend and they go through all this. I mean, it's just like drama, drama, drama. And you find yourself and they're only like, it's just like a couple minutes of a little vignette that goes on. And then if you really feel intrigued, you buy like a week's worth of watching these things, which I've done a couple times. Shockingly that I did this, but it doesn't matter because I'm watching these shows and almost every single one of them, all right, almost every single one of them, someone who is, well, maybe more than once, many times, they're slapping each other in the face, they're kicking each other. There's all this violence is going on, this domestic violence and public violence and jealousy and girlfriend, boyfriend, all this kind of stuff going on. People fighting, arguing over children, all this stuff going on. Now I'm watching these things and I'm asking myself, I said, oh, this is perfectly innocent. I'm just innocently watching these things and why I'm so intrigued. And the other day I was watching one, just this little vignette, and I found I noticed my whole body was trembling. I was so like, you got to get this person for doing this thing, bad, oh my gosh, this is going on in my mind. So I'm asking myself, what in the world, Lynn? Why am I watching this stuff? Why am I intrigued by it? Why is it catching me and dragging me in? And do I really want to see this stuff going on in the world? And if and it all seems so innocent until my son called me, and then I hear that he and his wife are fighting, arguing, and there's problems. They're having problems with the kids. My daughter called me; she's having all this trouble, arguing, fighting, and everything. I'm like, oh. um, because I'm saying, why is this happening? I'm saying, why is this happening? I don't want to see this. Why is this happening? Why is this happening in my world? My world, everybody loves each other and we're all in peace and everybody's happy and nobody's upset and nobody's fighting. What is happening? Why am I seeing this? And I realize, oh, because I want to see it. And me wanting to see all this, and I'm not blaming myself for them having arguments. I'm blaming myself for wanting to see something like that happening in the world and putting that into my dream as a acceptable alternative to peace and getting upset about it when I see it in uh like acting drama, but being terrified of it when I see it in what seems to be real life. And it's all the same thing. I want to see, I want to accuse my brother of being unfair, unloving, guilty. I'm just seeing this all in my mind, and I realize, you know, all that, when we hear people are having trouble, they'll say, "Well, I'll pray for you, and I'm going to send you my prayers. I'm going to send you my." Well, actually, all I have to do is stop seeing you as that thing and stop wanting to see the upset. I mean, seriously, stop wanting to see the upset because as long as I want to see it, I will see it. It will continue and it'll happen to my family. It'll happen to the world. It will happen everywhere I look because that's what I ask for. And if you think that you can have these thoughts and it's just innocent thinking, I'm just innocently indulging in this thing, think again. It will come right to you. That attraction to guilt that is so very clear to me. One of the obstacles to peace is the attraction to death, the attraction to guilt. I'm looking for it. I want to experience it. And then I get upset because I'm given that experience. I mean, it's nobody's fault. I'm the one who asked for it. And so I realized last night when I was meditating, after having talked to going through all these conversations and trying to be, mediating and trying to, I realized that none of that stuff was necessary. The only thing that's necessary is for me to recognize why it is I want to see a world in turmoil and how can I let it go? Because it's my decision every single time. And go ahead, Susie.
Just listening to what you were saying is I joined a church and I even got baptized, and I couldn't like I was not involved with Christianity or Judaism because my dad was Jewish and my mother was Anglican, and they raised me with no God. Like there was this God was nothing that was discussed at all. But this church is so close to Course in Miracles. I'm so blessed. Like I send the pastor passages and he's in church going, I'm here only to be truly helpful. I'm here to represent him. Like it's amazing. And I see so many similarities now reading the Bible for the first time in my life with Course in Miracles. It's like the message, Jesus is still trying to get the message through any way he can. And now that I'm like, oh my God, I didn't realize that Matthew has a story and Luke has a story and there's similar stories. And I didn't realize that. But one of the things that came up in, because our pastor is from New York, so he's back in New York right now, is so Justin from Australia, who was a gangster in his old life. He was up preaching, and I love listening to him because he's from he's just from this world. He really is. Um, well, he's lives knows how to live in the world, and and for him, it's like your Holy Spirit within is all that matters. But one of the things that he said is, at any time you have anything going on where it could be guilt or any chatting, stop, focus on God. And what I find is that because at that moment, then the Holy Spirit you can listen to, just focus on God. 3 words are up on the screen. Focus on God. And if you just say that to yourself, and it's like, focus on God, and it's gone. Because the story, like listening to you and your story, because what I find for myself, when I hear my story and then suddenly, oh my God, I'm aware of my story. And so you start having thoughts about being aware of the story. Stop, focus on God. And the ego can't say anything to that. That's like the trump card in bridge. It's like, that's as high as it goes. Focus on God. So I just thought of that with you and when I was listening to your story, and because I'm like, oh my God, I know where this is going. In Bali, they're addicted to, like, we've got a Connects group because it's like for their church, it's a Connects group. We get together every other Wednesday, we have dinner and we chat, and it's just so fun. It's just so cool. And people will tell their stories, and I'm sitting here listening to with Wade. I'm like, oh, I'm not sure I'm comfortable with stories. But the leaders, they're just holding the space. They're just holding the space. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. But they love Korean soap operas. They love Korean movies. They love Korean TV shows. And there's a drama and there's violence. But what Wade and I are learning is that violence is part of their daily life. Being slapped, being hit is normal life here. We haven't seen it, and so now I get why the church is always, we focus for the children, we pray for the children, because it's not like you're doing anything, you're just praying for the space. But it's like they love the soap operas, and Lassie, who's leading, she's Samoan from Australia, and she's like, they have so many stories of being hit, but they're like, they love the Korean stuff, and Wade and I find it violent. Well, it's because we didn't grow up with that. So that's when listening to you and your story, sharing yesterday, and I'm like, focus on God. Focus on God. That's your reset button. Just focus on God. So that's what I want to say.
I love that, Susie. And that's it exactly. I mean, just change your mind. Just change your mind right when you start recognizing it. And like I said the other day when I was watching that one, and honestly, they just come on. They're only on for, I should time it sometime, just watch it and time it sometime to see, not more than a couple of minutes. And it is they lead you into this whole, like, I tell you, I was shaking. My body was just like, I was just like ready to spring, into action watching this thing going on. And you're right, it's a lot of violence, um, and just like gratuitous, people getting slapped around is just so weird to me. Um, and yet we are equally violent in everything we think and do. It's just not so graphic because we hide it. And I think that hiding it makes it even worse. Um, and Glorian, please go ahead.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. On that note, it leads right into what I was going to say. Hiding the ego, the attraction to guilt that you mentioned, Lynn. And the remedy for that attraction to guilt is the willingness to accept responsibility for sight. And years ago, well, many years ago, I must have been in my 30s, I was facilitating a course group for someone who had a center in Queens. And we were up to the part responsibility for sight. So she comes to me, she says, please skip over that. I'm like, what do you mean? So she's like, please skip over that. Nobody likes it. And she's like, I don't want to. I said, how can you skip over that when that's the crux of what we're doing here? Recognizing that we can change our mind. But with that said, so we really do have to look at the resistance that is out there to the teaching. I was listening from earlier this morning, with Ken's sharing and I know Sandy's sharing, there's plenty who were resistant to that, but that's okay because it's all perfect. And those that are ready for the consciousness receive it. But I'm just going to circle back to something Dove said, which is really the foundation of everything. I do not know what anything is for. But then what do we do with that? That's the thing. We recognize we don't know, we don't want to know, but what do we do? And the answer is always the silence, like Sharon said, the I am presence, where in that quiet mind, spirit imparts itself to us. That's our way out of this seeming hellish experience, is the willingness to listen to that still small voice, to the Holy Spirit, the higher mind, and allowing it to direct and guide us, with being willing to let go of the ego, surrender these false concepts, and die daily to that personal sense of self, which we do in our course through the atonement process, which Ken was so wonderful at digging into. And it's so important to remember that we need to look, wait, and then judge not. So we definitely need to look at what it is that we see, that we're thinking, because what we're feeling and thinking shows us the false mind, and then we can be willing to make that different choice. But we don't know. The ego can't figure it out. This is not resolved in the perceptual thinking mind. It's only resolved when we're willing to move into that holy instant where we experience ourselves as that spirit of God. And then that's what's reflected back at us. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Glorian. And wow, yeah. That is really it. uh the whole idea of that responsibility for the world I see. And Keith mentions that in this talk that he did today, or he did Sunday, the world I see. And I've mentioned that also myself. So I obviously got to bring it up. And that's everything you see is the world you see. It's not the world as it is. It's not the world of reality. What we see is a world that we have imagined in our own mind. And that imaginary world that we see contains all the characters and all the scenes and everything that we might think or want to see. It's all right there. But it's not the same. My world is not the same as Susie's world. My world is not the same as Glorian's world. My world is not the same as Deb's world or Dove's world or in Lori's world. We all live in our own world, and we all see it from our own state of mind, whatever perception we're in. So that's why some people can be in heaven and other people in hell in the same situation at the same time. You could go to a let me say, Metallica concert, all right? There's some people who would go to a Metallica concert and spend their whole time going, "Oh my God, this is driving me crazy. Why are these kids so crazy?" There are other people who go to a Metallica concert and go, "Wow, this is so much fun. I really love it. What great music." Same music, same stage, same musicians. We don't we don't see it the same way. That's what we're talking about. None of this, not only is none of it real, none of it is as I perceive it. I perceive it one way, everybody else perceives it some other way, and nobody perceives it the same. And just that, recognition that only what's the same can be real, it has to bring you into a place where you have to ask the question then, well, what is real? What is the same and what is real? And Susie says Wade loves Metallica. I love Metallica. That's why I brought up Metallica. I think their music is profound. There is just so much that I mean, it's just my um, it's a generational thing, I guess. I don't know. Um, no, I'm just kidding because I'm 72 and I know Wade is much younger than that. And I and I know my son is much younger than that and he loves Metallica too. But that's because I see it from a point of view and you see it from a point of view and I do not take me to the opera. Seriously there, do not take me to the opera because I would be sitting there going, where are the hot dog vendors? No, I wouldn't be doing that, but I'm sure I would enjoy it. I'm sure I would be able to sit through it and enjoy it, probably be fascinated by the costumes and the music and everything, but it's not something I would willingly pay for because I don't see it that way. But yeah, and you have to know the story ahead of time. So yeah, see, and yeah, Wade's like 10 years younger than me. So there we go. We're all in the same generation. Anyway, does anybody else have anything that they would like to share? Um, I don't know. It's 10 o'clock, so we've been on for about 90 minutes. I would definitely want people to share if they want to. Otherwise, I have two options here. Um, I have, uh, I guess I'm going to go ahead and close out the YouTube. So those of you listening on YouTube, thank you so much for being here with us, and I appreciate you. And look for us again because if you subscribe, I'm learning. Hit that subscribe button. If you subscribe, you'll get a notification. Hit the little bell. You'll get a notification when we're live. And but if we're live, you're willing to come on in here any old time. Susie, yeah, go ahead, honey.
Since this chapter is concluded, I just want to share a couple of stories because things that happened to show how I never do not know what anything is for. I mean, we left Vancouver because someone came to our house and sat on the bed with a gun and told me we had an hour to leave. Nothing to do with me. We now know that it's, my mother was part of the people behind the scenes that run the government, and I either had to take her place or leave, and I never took it seriously. But so, I woke up to somebody on my bed with a gun, and I didn't take it seriously. I thought I was sleeping until I heard the door slam upstairs and watched a car drive away, and there was footprints. And I left, and I left, and 20 and Wade and I were separated, and 20 but he was at another part of the house, and 20 minutes later it's like Jesus is telling me to go home and get him, and I'm like, but that means I'll be like serious. And I pulled over and I'm like, really? And I went back and he was awake waiting for me. We're in Bali now. We got to see every capital city in Canada. We got to travel all over Europe. And we came to Bali because of Spain having the terrible storms and floods that were happening. So we came here to wait a week. It's like God lives in Bali. I'm a full-time course student, and it's just truly amazing. We have a house sitter in Vancouver who I've known for years, who turned into what's it called when someone lives in your house that's not psychopath, wait.
A squatter?
Squatter, right? And she's turned into this evil, horrible person. Well, Julia Day was helping me give up my book because we're selling everything. The house will be sold in a couple months. Julia Day was helping me get rid of my books, like, because I have a beautiful library. It's a beautiful take it. And because my squatter, my house sitter, just made it so difficult for the Julia's friend, it didn't happen. So then somebody else who Julia's Facebook friends with doesn't know him showed up. His mentor was a student of Ken Wapnick's. I mean, how he's now our brother from another mother. I still have a special love here. I know it's not supposed to be special love, but I know that's what we're going through. But I have a real true connection. I wouldn't have met him had it not been for my house sitter. And he's now helping me sell everything. And every day I've got this beautiful, I've got a mentor and a friend and a brother. And he also has somebody because I'm not a new course student. But in a way, I'm new because this year when I got to ballet, I opened the course on page 1 and said, I'm starting over. This is the beginning of life. But I was also a student of Ken Wapnick's through other people. So when you see the quote unquote bad stuff happen, it's not. I do not know what anything is for, except for, Dove, take it one step further. Everything is for me. Everything is it's a gift. Everything is a gift. And it truly every single day, like what happened when I don't, the thoughts, the memories of how we ended up here, it's just a beautiful story now because we have such beautiful memories. And every day I'm grateful for my friend Guy, who, I mean, he loved Ken. He just loved Ken. But his mentor who studied under Ken just died. So it's just nice. We have this beautiful connection, and it wouldn't have happened had it not been for a bad person. You see, so there's no bad, there's no good. It's all a gift, and it's just embracing it. So that's what I wanted to say. What I wanted to share.
Thank you, Susie. I love it. It's just how these things happen, and we just don't know. Honestly, we just don't know what anything is for or why anything is happening the way it's happening. But you just have to trust that, God's taking you to Bali. That's the script is taking you to Bali, right? So all right. I love it. All right. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to share before we close off the YouTube? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close off the YouTube. Thank y'all for listening.